Hey, what's going on, guys? If you guys didn't know, we're gonna be talking about like the uh, buy climax happening on the higher time frame up in the 691.66. Basically, what this is the bear end log, and we talked about how we would want to ideally see like a three higher high distribution internally happening within this gap, right? So basically, from down here all the way to up here, you have this whole entire gap where you'd like to ideally see highs sold above this high of day Tuesday. Obviously, there was no Monday due to Martin Luther King Day, and you'd like to see the highs sold every single time into that gap and kind of creating a formation of some sort that looks like shortening of the thrust in the Wyckoff book, where you have like those higher highs that are, obviously lacking their progress, and then basically what you get is you get this peak and then you sort of get like a break of structure look, and you could utilize a trade off of something right here, or you could utilize a trade off of something up here if this is the gap fill. So we have basically all of that showing right now potentially, and I'm going to talk about this tying in with the weekly chart. If we go to the weekly chart, we can see how we are right on top of that buy climax right here off of where, preliminary distribution has started from. Could this January 13th potentially just be a UT? Yes, it 100% could. However, we are just filling this whole entire gap right now. So essentially, from down here, like I said, all the way to up here, actually, no, right here, um, is the gap, right? And that's right off of that 50-day moving average. It's right off of, like I said, the buy climax and potentially the up thrust high. If you guys want to take a little bit of a buffer on your level, you could take 691.66, which is the up thrust high, which is obviously we talk about how, you have distribution and you have this resistance, and then you crack a little bit slightly above, you break back down, you put in a higher low, and then you go above again, and then you crack down again, right? And this would be technically right here would be the UT on this, uh, the up thrust, and then this would be the UTAD, up thrust after distribution. So right now we're basically within this leg from the bottom down here to the top up here, bottom down here to the top up here. And what we want to see on the hourly time frame and on the 15-minute time frame is something that we're seeing similar to what's going on right now. However, we would like to see everything kind of finalize and everything kind of build out in a proper manner, right here into this fill at 691.66. Everything else is filled from above. It's funny because the market right now, it saw basically a drawdown from the January 13th CPI, as we called, of um, just about 3%, which is pretty big for just a few trading days. So obviously there was definitely a plan for things to be sold off from this range up here, this upper distribution range potentially, and this all could be the upper distribution range, with this right here being some sort of LPSY/UTAD test. And we already kind of have, that first high sold. We're kind of getting that look of that buy climax right now, secondary high, and then the finalization of everything put together for the third climactic high. It's a similar concept to like a rising wedge, but like it doesn't have to be a wedge formation. Basically, it could just be like just higher highs that are sold off, and then like these weak bids that are bouncing things back up, and essentially all it really is when you have a weak bid that's rising the market ever so slightly, incrementally day by day into a slight new high, but you keep getting this supply coming off of that high of day and those new high of days made, then things are eventually going to slip from beneath, and all of those weak buyers that were in this trend before are going to be obviously, absorbed through and then pressed down on by more supply once this breaks back under like 688.73, which is the news high. This is the Wednesday high. And this kind of also confirms a little bit. As of right now, I want to really preface this. As of right now, the weekly candle does look and it appears bullish. However, with a weaker looking close, things could change. And also, we have to see how everything starts out into the next week, because if this is just going to rest off of 691.66 and off of this entire range on the weekly chart here, from here down to right over here, then things are definitely going to change for the worse. And I think with all of that slippage underneath those levels, that would probably simultaneously align with a move in the chips down. There has not been impressive strength on this rebound within SMH, and I can't say that distribution is starting here yet, but I think within this range there was something going on. And if you guys go to the daily chart, it does not look like a high, like a super strong trend on on an hourly or like a 4 hour. It almost looks like it's like a ticking time bomb in terms of like a headline coming out with all of these highs that are being sold off. And we're still getting that commodity rotation. We're still getting really nice moves within like energy, as well as like crude in the United States Oil Fund. And I've been positioning those. I've been very vocal about my look on that area of the market. Also have been talking about this this one right here, ZIM. I'm positioned in this one. It's speculative size, but it is what it is. Moderna was a massive trade for me. I didn't hold all my position all the way up to the 55 spot, but it was a fantastic move. I own far dated puts on TSM, and I think distribution is starting over here. We're kind of still in that blow off top stage, I believe, with like MU and with like names like LRCX and whatnot. LRCX is slowing off a little bit more than MU is right now, but I do think MU is at the point of a gap up can be sold off very aggressively. We're getting like really consistent heavy volume in the volume profile here on the daily chart, day by day volume of 40 to 50 million volume, and I think that's just something that is not the greatest look whenever you're however many extensions above the moving averages, and probably an extension over top of this Bollinger Band, I would assume, or at least close. Yeah, we're getting close to that point. So this is definitely going to be a mean reversion candidate for me here soon. When this really, wants to show off the signs of it being ready. I would love a gap up in the next week for something like MU to be able to fade this one. Still really nice looks within XLE on every single time frame, from the daily to the weekly and even to the monthly. I think that this one is going to break and base the 2014 highs. Keep in mind, my charts aren't adjusted for dividends, so your 2014 highs could be a little bit different than mine. I don't adjust the chart for dividends. That's just counting on the value accumulated over time of all of those dividend payments, which I don't think is good for technical analysis. So yeah, I think we're going to break and base 50.74, and this one's going to have a very nice look with these last 7 days of the monthly candle. So we'll see how that one goes. Microsoft is kind of leading the way today. Do I think that this is anything that is necessarily, so crazy strong? No, I think it's kind of getting its earnings run up within a broader perspective of distribution, and I see distribution on a lot of these tech names, right? So I would say that my January 13th topping date is potentially still on par with obviously leading into this next week of tech earnings, and I do think tech earnings could be a miss. So with all of that being said, We got tech earnings being Microsoft here Wednesday. I believe we have Meta next week as well on Wednesday. We got Thursday, January 29th, being Apple. NVIDIA is obviously delayed, and that's where I think we get our LPSY from a secondary leg lower, probably a retracement into some sort of Feb OPEX, and then you would look for some sort of lower high like this on the NVIDIA earnings. Potentially a pop and a fade off of some of these reports as well, like Microsoft. So we'll see how it goes, but yeah, I don't think any of these are going to report a great report here, and we'll see how it goes. But I could be wrong, and I don't think I'm going to have any crazy positioning. I think crude is putting in like its break of structure and its higher lows now ever since the sweep of the April 7th lows. You guys could see, these previous lower highs are turning into higher lows. Everything looks really good. It's breaking and basing above that 50-day. Kind of just got to get over top of that 200-day. On USO, I think everything looks really, really good from a higher time frame perspective. Again, higher lows after gaps are being filled. Really, really, really tight weekly / monthly and multi-month range here with several weekly inside bars to this October 20th. So it ultimately just looks like, demand is kind of outweighing supply within this little range, and I think we have to move to supply minimum of the 77 gap fill that I've been talking about for a long time. So the positioning for me remains the same. I still actually own March puts for SPY, and like I said, I'm probably going to get leveraged if we were to see that 3 higher high play out into that 691.66 end log fill. So if you guys have any questions, feel free to ask, but that's going to be it here, and yeah, have a good weekend.